Welcome back here on Charting with Dylan. As always, I'm your host Dylan Mckercher, and last weekend we saw two new films open wide, being led by Harrison Ford's Call of the Wild remake, joined along with the horror sequel Brahms the Boy 2. However, winning the weekend, zooming past the competition yet again with Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic claimed the top spot with $26.1 million, which last week I went on and on about how Sonic would have to have legs to outrun the competition, and while the Sega Hedgehog kept the top spot, the film did see a larger 55% drop, which is more akin to a blockbuster release compared to an animated or a family film. In second, the aforementioned Call of the Wild hit theaters and caused quite a stir. While the Ford-starring remake did garner an A- cinema score, social media went into a frenzy about the use of a CGI dog, as well as CGI in all the animals in the film. Another major thing about the film is that it had a reported budget of $135 million, which an opening of just under $25 million domestically is not a great start to turn a profit. While it did exceed expectations this past weekend, if you are Disney, you're not howling about these numbers. The Fox inherited films from the merger have not been doing a good job, and we could do a whole show about how Fox acquired films are bombing at the box office. We have examples such as Dark Phoenix, which lost over $100 million, a film that I love being Ad Astra, and then more recently Underwater. While the lone positive about the merger is being Ford v Ferrari, which was nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars, and made about $225 million worldwide on a budget of $97 million. And lastly, before we hit up the domestic top 5 for the weekend, we saw a film open in limited release, in fact only 5 theaters, but posted the highest per theater average at an impressive $234,500. The film described by IMDb as the following antics of a young woman, Emma Woodhouse, who lives in the Georgian Regency era, England, and occupies herself with matchmaking, and sometimes misguided, often meddlesome fashion, in the lives of her friends and family, starring Anya Taylor-Joy in a new adaptation of the iconic Jane Austen novel. Kicking off the domestic top 5, no 4-day totals this week, but we're back to the normal 3-day weekend, which has Sonic the Hedgehog darting to the top spot, making $26.2 million domestically. While the Hedgehog dropped 55%, I still think that the Paramount film will continue to see a better week-to-week hold going forward. While Call of the Wild opened well over expectations, this Fox-acquired film will still see major losses based on that huge budget. If the film kept its original Christmas release date, I think this film could have been a runaway success. However, the Ford-starring film barked up $24.7 million. Down the third is Birds of Prey, which saw a major 60% drop and clowning away with $6.8 million. A major drop for a third week. The film's naysayers may be proven right that not even word of mouth can save the Margot Robbie-led film. Then holding in the top 5 is one of the year's first films, being Bad Boys for Life. The buddy cop comedy went from 5th to 4th this past week, dropping only 49% of sales, racking in $5.8 million, which is super impressive. The Will Smith and Martin Lawrence film has been out for 6 weeks and is still holding strong in the top 5. And opening in 5th, scaring away $5.8 million is Brahms the Boy 2. The film saw around a 50% drop compared to its predecessors, opening up $10.7 million all the way back in 2016. Dropping out of the top 5 was both last weekend's Valentine's releases, being Fantasy Island seeing a massive 65.3% drop, down from 4th to 10th. Seeing a whopping 77% drop is the romantic comedy The Photograph, which I can't remember the last time I saw a 77% drop in week 2 for a film that opened that wide. Even the Will Ferrell and Julia Louis-Dreyfus comedy if that is, I saw it, I don't even know what that was, saw a drop of 68.9% this previous weekend, all the way down at number 13. Then next, with our new chart, which we'll continue to look at all throughout 2020, is the top 10 films domestically. In the 8th weekend of the 2020 box office race, Bad Boys for Life continues to be at number 1, reigning on top, adding even more to its domestic total. In 6 weeks, the buddy cop comedy has made $191.5 million domestically so far. Rising to second is Sonic the Hedgehog, which in just 2 weeks has zoomed to $107.7 million. Doolittle falls to third, having earned $74.6 million in 6 weeks. The Robert Downey Jr. starring film continues to struggle to earn back its massive budget, especially here domestically. Then in 4th, flightless this weekend was Harley Quinn Birds of Prey, which has grossed for $72.8 million in 3 weeks. Also staying in place at 5th is The Gentleman with $33.7 million. One of our new films, Call of the Wild, opens in 6th on this chart with $26.4 million. And the next two films both follow a spot with Like a Boss and The Grudge earning $22.1 and $21.2 million respectively. Then, as I predicted last week, Fantasy Island and The Photograph both move into the top 10, racking in $20.5 and $17.8 respectively, while 3 new films have dropped out. Underwater, which spent 6 weeks, The Turning spending 4 weeks, and lastly, Gretel and Hansel dropping out after 3 weeks on the chart. Next weekend has The Invisible Man opening in wide release and Emma expanding to more theaters after a great weekend in limited release. Check back next week to see if the game is over for the blue hedgehog and his legs can't keep running, or if The Invisible Man can be a surprise horror hit such as last year's Escape Room, which we had in the early months. Check the Rotunda out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more great content. Until next time, this is Dill, signing off.